This is Ted Murmagos, Division Director here at the Division of Child Support Services. And this is the Child Support Connection. We actually came up with a name for this monthly event. And you may recall that if you've listened to this before, it is the first Monday of every month from 11:30 to 12:30. And today is February 1st, and it's the first Monday of the month. So this is the first official airing of the Child Support Connection. Again, I'm Ted Murmagos, the Division Director here in the state of Delaware at the Division of Child Support Services. And I'm hoping that we are going to have some people joining, hopefully this live event, and have some questions for me here at Child Support. And I'm more than happy to answer a question that I know the answer to, and if I don't, I'll certainly get you in contact with people here at the Child Support Office that can answer your question. So I always like to start off these events by just giving some general information about child support here in the first state. And as I've said before, the Division of Child Support Services, we have 3 offices statewide, and all of our offices are open during the pandemic. But it's important for people to know that if you think you need to come in and talk to a child support specialist, we ask that you call and speak to a child support specialist in our customer service unit. And the phone number for customer service here in Delaware is area code 302-577-7171. And if you speak to our child support specialist in our customer service unit and let them know what your concerns are or what your problem may be, they can triage it. And my hope is help you answer your questions over the telephone rather than having you come to our child support office and actually have to sit and meet with someone in person. We will do that, but we're trying to schedule them by appointment only. And we ask that you maybe take your temperature before you come in, and but that we schedule an appointment for you to come to our child support office. So again, that phone number, 577-7171, area code 302. Also, the family court in the state of Delaware is open. We're continuing to work with the Department of Justice in filing petitions with the family court, and they are holding mediation sessions, are being handled. Majority are still being handled through electronic mediums like Zoom, telephone calls, and that kind of thing. But we certainly want you to know that the family court is open for business and are holding family court hearings at the mediation level and at the commissioner's level throughout the state. So we do have one question already, and I want to go ahead and try to keep up on the questions. Can arrears be canceled by the petitioner? So in the state of Delaware, there's kind of 2 sets of arrears. One set of arrears are owed to the state of Delaware. This does not happen in all cases. And those are arrears that accrue while the custodial parent may be on TANF, which is Temporary Assistance to Needy Families, or if the child is involved in a foster care case. So there's arrears that may have accrued while the custodial parent was receiving benefits from the state. The second set of arrears are those arrears that may be accrued while the custodial parent is not on benefits by the state, not on TANF, and the children are not enrolled in foster care. And those arrears accrue when the current support obligation is not being met, and they are owed to the custodial parent. So to answer your question, if the arrears are owed to the state of Delaware, those arrears cannot be canceled. Those arrears are owed to the state to reimburse the state, and we really try hard to collect those arrears until those arrears are at 0. If the arrears are owed to the custodial parent, yes, those arrears can be what we say be forgiven. And we at the Child Support Office have a actual letter that a custodial parent can complete by signing their name and notarizing it after they have read the statement that they are forgiven these arrears, and there is no expectation that the state of Delaware is going to try and get those arrears back at some later date. So when they truly are forgiving the arrears, they are forgiving them for good. And we make the custodial parents sign that letter and notarize it that they are going to forgive the balance of arrears that may be owed or a portion of the arrears that are owed. That's up to the custodial parent to decide. The one thing I always like to stress to custodial parents is we certainly don't want non-custodial parents pressuring custodial parents into signing that forgiveness letter. So we caution them to be very careful before signing that notice that will give the state of Delaware permission to remove arrears that are owed to them, because those arrears go away and do not come back. But we want to make sure, and we want to have a conversation with custodial parents to make sure that there's no pressure being applied by non-custodial parents or threats for them to forgive those arrears. So we would certainly, that's something that if you're interested in forgiving those arrears, you can contact the customer service unit, and they can make sure that you have that letter. And then the follow-up question is, how do you find out the difference? So the first thing, like I was talking about TANF arrears, that's temporary assistance to needy families. If you've ever gone to the Division of Social Services and asked to receive TANF benefits, which is public assistance, welfare benefits, then that's an indication, but you can always call customer service if you're the custodial parent or the non-custodial parent and talk to a child support specialist, and they can tell you whether the arrears are owed to the state of Delaware or whether the arrears are owed to you as the custodial parent. So I encourage you, if you have a question about that, furthermore, go ahead and contact customer service. One of the things after our last monthly event that I talked to my constituent, my community relations officer about is, if I see that, and this hasn't happened yet today, but if I see repeat questions come in, I'm just going to refer people watching the video to go back and watch the beginning of the video. Last month we talked a lot about the stimulus checks that came in to child support during March, April, May, June of 2020, as well as the new stimulus check that came in. So there was a lot of repeat questions. So one thing that, as I continue to start doing these events every month, I'm going to try and learn better ways to handle questions and be a little bit more informative. So if there are repeat questions, I may refer people to, hey, go back and take a look at the beginning of this Facebook Live event, and I already answered that question. So while we're waiting for, there is one more additional question here. If one parent filed a tax return, why haven't the parent that is owed child support receive those returns from the parent that is owing? So one of the things I always like to do too is talk to people a little bit about the program. So this question is specifically if the non-custodial parent has filed their taxes and we at the Child Support Office haven't intercepted that tax refund. So the Division of Child Support has a program called our Federal and State Tax Offset Program. So if non-custodial parents owe arrears, and I believe if they owe arrears over $150, the state can submit them for a tax intercept, I believe, by our State Division of Revenue, and $500 we can submit the non-custodial parent to the IRS to intercept a refund of a federal tax refund. We can intercept that refund. So the question is, how come we haven't intercepted it if the person has filed their taxes? And the important thing to remember here is the only way that child support will be able to intercept that tax refund is A, the person filed their taxes, and B, they're due a refund. If two of those things have happened, child support can intercept that refund, but there's a couple other little caveats. Child support ranks very high in the hierarchy of receiving a tax refund intercept. At the IRS, at the federal IRS, Internal Revenue Service, I believe if a non-custodial parent owes the IRS for back taxes, that is really the only payment that will go before a child support intercept. So if there's a specific question about, hey, the non-custodial parent filed their taxes, they're indicating they're due a refund, and if they owe arrears over a certain threshold, I believe it's 500 or 150, I can't remember which is which, but we will intercept that. And my thing is it's always important to, if you think you should have gotten a payment, you can certainly contact us, our customer service unit, and they can look at the case and give you some information about whether we've received that payment or not, as it relates to that special collection. So I hope I have answered that question. We should, there's a way that we submit the information to the IRS. We do that once a year. So, that could be another issue that could be possibly affecting it, is they may owe a certain balance in arrears today, but did they owe over the threshold when we submitted the data to match with the IRS intercepts? So that's another thing to check with. So, the thing I want to stress to people is, if we submitted them and they owe arrears over a certain threshold, we will intercept that. We should be intercepting that unless they owe the IRS for back penalties or fees or something of that nature. So the best bet is to contact our customer service unit. We can give you more information on that regarding whether we've actually intercepted it. But it's always important to remember, did we certify the arrears balance? Were they over the threshold at the time? And did the person truly get a refund? I'm not saying that they're lying or not telling you the truth, but there are some times where information that's being provided to the custodial parent may not necessarily be accurate, and that's another thing to really take into consideration. Another question, how about if the non-custodial parent does not get a refund but now is married, can the new spouse get a refund? And can they file together? Can the refund be intercepted? So if the non-custodial parent is currently married to someone else and they file a joint tax return, when you submit your taxes, you basically attribute what's owed to each spouse. If the non-custodial parent is not owed a refund, but the spouse is owed a refund, we will not intercept that spouse's refund for child support purposes. In many situations, the IRS will actually come back to the child support program and actually reverse a payment that may be owed to that current spouse. So there are situations where we do maybe get the spouse's money, but we are obligated to return it back to the IRS so that that spouse can get those funds correctly. I received a payment of child support one time a month, but it's taken out of the non-custodial parent's paycheck biweekly. So one of the things, this goes again to trying to teach folks a little bit about the child support program. In about 99% of the cases that come out of the family court here in Delaware, the courts will issue a wage withholding to the employer for the purposes of sending that payment to child support. So this question is, hey, I'm getting a payment once a month, but he gets paid bi-weekly. The employer is obligated to make a deduction every time that person gets paid, the non-custodial parent gets paid, and send that payment to child support within 7 days of that pay date every 2 weeks. In this particular case, you're saying he gets paid every 2 weeks. We should be getting that payment from the employer every 2 weeks. And if that's not the case, we certainly can reach out to that employer. So I would encourage you to, I know I'm going to be saying this a lot, this is one of the things that helps me connect you with us, and that's to call our customer service unit and let them know, hey, can you check my account to make sure this is the situation, that he gets paid every 2 weeks, but I'm only getting a payment once a month. Can you tell me why? And if they're saying, well, the employer, if our customer service child support specialist says to you, hey, they're only saying it in once a month, but if he gets paid every 2 weeks, they'll have the child support specialist call the employer and make sure they understand that if he gets paid every 2 weeks, that deduction needs to be sent to child support every 2 weeks so that we can send that payment out to you. So again, call customer service at 577-7171, area code 302, and we can certainly help by reaching out to the employer. Let's see, another question here. Why can't an EIN be found for another state's employer? I'm not certain that that's not true. And I certainly don't. If an employee from child support told you we can't find an employer from another state, I'm not sure whether that's actually accurate. One of the things here at child support, we have a database of employers, not only here in Delaware, but employers around the country. In addition to that, we have access to the Department of Labor records here in the state of Delaware, and some Department of Labor records in other states around the country. In addition to that, we have colleagues that work in child support programs all around the country. So if there's a need to find a EIN, which is an employer identification number, so that we can issue a wage withholding to that company, we definitely have the tools that makes that possible. So maybe what you can do is, again, call customer service and have them, try to see if they can narrow it down if we're trying to issue a wage withholding to that employer. The other thing that's important, sometimes custodial parents, and this is just another teaching moment here, sometimes custodial parents call the child support program and they want us and our staff to provide them with information that we're really not, we're really not permitted to share. One of those things is providing custodial parents with names of employers of the non-custodial parent. And that's because, we certainly, the employer community, I may have said this the last time too, the employer community is so important to the child support community in helping us get those payments to get payments in the door, to get health insurance for children. So we try to keep that relationship between us and the employer. So we certainly encourage you to call customer service if we're having a hard time issuing a wage withholding. I think we have the tools that can make that happen. I don't want, I'm going to suggest that in some cases, you can, I don't know what the proper terminology here is on Facebook, but DM or private message our community relations officer with some information, and he can get that information to me or the worker, and we can nail it down if there's an employer, if there's a problem with the employer. Let's see here. My child support paperwork was received in Delaware last week from California. How does it usually take to get an answer or start receiving the child support? So when we receive information from a custodial parent, we have to do a little bit of legwork, especially when another state's involved, in order to send that paperwork to another state. So some states are a little bit more easier to get the paperwork to, get them to the other states to process the case for us. So it can take anywhere between 3 to 6 months, sometimes even a little bit longer, for other states to, and sometimes Delaware has that same problem when we're internally receiving a document from another state. But it can take a little bit of time for that other state to process the Delaware paperwork in order to move that case either into court or creating a child support order or to register a Delaware order in their jurisdiction. So it can take a little bit of time for that other state to actually get that case registered, get an order on the case, and then to actually start collecting payments by the non-custodial parent for us here in Delaware. The normal amount of time, though, is about 3 to 6 months when we're asking another state to enforce that case for Delaware. Are their driver's licenses still being suspended if they are a certain amount behind in child support? So yes, in Delaware, if a non-custodial parent has not made a payment, it's somewhere between 30 and 60 days, normally 60 days with no payment, and the child support arrears are over $3,500. The child support system, I think I talk about this a lot, the child support system will automatically, without any child support specialist hitting a key on their keyboard, will automatically send that non-custodial parent a letter that says, hey, you need to contact the child support office within 20 days and make a lump sum payment on your child support case. And we will not go forward with suspending the driver's license or the business license or the professional license or the hunting and fishing license. But you have to contact the child support office. One of the things I talk to non-custodial parents about all the time, don't ignore those letters from us because we want to help you. One of the things that's important for both custodial and non-custodial parents to know is, we try to work with non-custodial parents about not suspending their license because it's so hard sometimes to get that license back. So we try to say, look, you can't make a lump sum payment of 2 months worth of your child support. Can you make a 1 month payment? Can you make any kind of a good faith payment? And tell us where you're working. If you're not working, consider joining our Delaware Fatherhood program where we can help you find employment opportunities. But it's important that we create that dialogue with the non-custodial parent to let them know that, hey, we want to work with you. We don't want to suspend your license. We want to give you your license back if it has been suspended, but we need a little bit from you first. A lump sum payment, as well as telling us where you're employed so that we can issue a wage withholding to that employer. But 60 days no payment and $3,500 or more in arrears, the system will automatically submit them through the license suspension program so that we can use that tool as an enforcement tool. If you marry someone who owes arrears, can that refund be taken? If you marry someone who owes arrears, if you're married to someone and they owe child support arrears, if we submit them for tax intercept, we can only take the non-custodial parent's portion of the refund. We cannot take their current spouse's portion. Let's see here, another question. To follow up on the license suspension question, if they live in another state, will that license be suspended or just Delaware? So just as we here in Delaware have a license suspension program, every child support agency around the country has a license suspension program. But those programs have different policies affecting them. Some states are more strict related to suspending a license and getting a lump sum payment or having arrears paid in full. Some are a little bit more lenient. In Delaware, at first, our license suspension program was you have to pay these arrears off before we give you your license back, or you have to sign this payment plan that you're going to commit to making a payment every week, and it was too hard for non-custodial parents. So we changed our policy about 5 or 6 years ago, maybe a little longer, 7 years ago, that said, hey, if you can make a lump sum payment, give us a wage, where can we issue an employer wage withholding, we'll give you your license back. Sometimes we may have suspended, and this is another thing we tell non-custodial parents, we may have suspended your license 5 years ago, 6 years ago, but you've turned things around and you're making your child support payments now. They're coming in from a wage withholding. And if we've got 6 months, 10 months, a year of regular wage withholding payments, we will go ahead and give you your license back because you've committed yourself to making regular payments. And we don't want to suspend your license when you need it to get to work. And so if you're making your payments, we will go ahead and we can ease up on some of those enforcement tools. But to answer your specific question, child support agencies around the country, they all have a license suspension program. Even though those programs may run a little differently than Delaware, they should be able to suspend a driver's license if someone is not meeting their child support obligations. Professional, well, yeah. So she's asking, is it professional licenses also in other states? I'm pretty sure it is. In Delaware, we've committed to driver's license, professional license, business license, and hunting and fishing. And we actually do get a lot of traction when we suspend a hunting and fishing license. I know, surprisingly, people, they want to be able to fish and they want to be able to hunt, so they will pay off their child support, make regular payments, or get back on track. So, one of the things, if you're a custodial parent, one of the things, if you have contact with a non-custodial parent, I'm always encouraging them, and I want you to encourage the non-custodial parent in your case to commit to working with child support. And if their license is suspended, if they could tell us where they're working, if they can start making regular payments, we want to work with them, and we want to be able to give them back their license. And it just takes them being wanting to get back on track and be consistent, making some regular child support payments. So let's see here. How come it's hard to have a case brought back to Delaware from Maryland? I have contacted Maryland Child Support with no response in a year. Non-custodial parent has been living in Delaware for 5 years now. So I'm making an assumption, and I'm pretty sure I'm right here, that both of you now, because you're saying bringing it back to Delaware, both of you are living here in the state of Delaware. If that's the case, why don't you do this? I think contacting your worker here in Delaware and having them reach out to the worker in the state of Maryland and confirm with them that, hey, everybody's back in the state of Delaware, especially if there's a Delaware child support order, we can have that case brought back to Delaware, and we can work that case as an in-state case. This is a perfect opportunity also for me to encourage both custodial parents and non-custodial parents who are listening to this, or if you know a custodial parent or non-custodial parent, we have a customer website that if you have a child support case here in the state of Delaware, you can actually go onto our website through the state of Delaware. I always refer people, go to delaware.gov, look for state agencies over on the right, find child support. We have instructions and awesome how-to videos to sign up for our customer website. And that customer website gives you another way to reach out to your child support specialist through a quasi-email system. You can write them questions and they can respond back to you in writing. You have a question about your case, you can write that question down and they'll be happy to answer that question for you. But it also lets you see an account statement and have access to that account statement. You can print it from home. You can submit employer information if you're a non-custodial parent. Submit that information to the customer through the customer website, and the worker can generate a wage withholding to that employer. And you can receive other kinds of notices and communication from the child support office through that customer website. And I'm happy to report in a couple months, we're hoping in the spring of 2021, we're going to be introducing a new proactive client notification system. And I'm going to have more to talk about that. And that's just another way that we're going to be able to share information with our customers. But for right now, I'm encouraging folks, go to our website and sign up for our customer website. And you can get information directly from your child support, from our child support system about your case, right sitting at home on your computer system. Our case is in Delaware, but the non-custodial parent lives in another state. Yeah. So if your case is in Delaware and the non-custodial parent lives in another case, you as a custodial parent can live in Delaware, and the non-custodial parent can live in another state and work in another state, and it can still be, an in-state case here in Delaware, because as long as the non-custodial parent participates in court hearings by telephone or comes to Delaware for a court hearing, or is meeting his obligation. We send a wage withholding to an employer in another state, and they're honoring that wage attachment. Payments are coming in. Everything's great. It can be a Delaware case. No other state has to be involved, and we would work that case just like an in-state case. So, certainly we don't, as a last resort, when somebody moves out of state, we send that case to another state to work. We would prefer to work that case as an in-state case because it's easier, and if the non-custodial parent's willing to work with us, work with the court system here in Delaware, we're always happy to, keep it an in-state case, and it keeps it simple, and that's what we like, and we certainly hope that custodial parents like that part also. What does it do? Okay, so I have a question about our Delaware Fatherhood Program. And the Delaware Fatherhood Program is an employment services-based fatherhood program. I always like to tell people, just because it's called the Delaware Fatherhood Program, it doesn't mean you can't be a female and participate in the program. It doesn't mean that you have to be a non-custodial parent. You can, if you're a custodial parent and you want to find better employment opportunities, you can certainly contact our child support office at 302-577-7171 and tell them you want to speak to a customer service specialist about our Delaware Fatherhood Program. The Delaware Fatherhood Program does a lot of things. We would refer, once you're in part of the program, we refer you to an employment and training vendor who does an assessment. They look at what your interests are, what your skills set is, and they try to match you up with employment situations that best fit your needs. Once they do that, they are communicating with employers who are hiring that will set you up with an interview. They help with training. If you need training to become more employable, they have relationships with training programs up and down the state of Delaware. They can refer you to a training program. They can help you fill out job applications. They can help you fill out a resume. They can help you with interview skills. But the thing is they want to help place people in employment situations that will help support them, as well as, if you're a non-custodial parent, pay your child support obligation. So if you're underemployed, at your current place of employment, if you're unemployed, you're not working and you want help finding a job, we can do that. We can help you as part of our Delaware Fatherhood Program find employment opportunities. And we are really encouraging people to be a part of the Child Support's Fatherhood Program. If you're a non-custodial parent and you're participating in our Fatherhood Program, we would work with the custodial parents to say, hey, this non-custodial parent is participating in our Fatherhood Program. He's meeting with the employment and training vendors on a weekly basis. He's going through their program, meeting all of their objectives. Would you mind that we don't generate a contempt petition right now? Will you let us not suspend a driver's license right now so that he can or she can fulfill the obligations of the Fatherhood Program? We would work with you as a custodial parent to make those choices. But the Fatherhood Program, again, it's an employment services-based program. We want to put people to work, that they can support themselves, they can support their child support, pay their child support obligations. So we're really trying to encourage people to enroll in the Delaware Fatherhood Program. A customer service specialist here can help you make that referral. If you're at mediation, if you're a custodial parent and you're at mediation and the non-custodial parent says, I'm not working, hey, bring this up. We ask our child support specialist when they're at mediation to bring up the Delaware Fatherhood Program. But if they don't, bring it up. We want to make referrals to that program so we can help people get employed. What about those non-custodial parents that continue to get suspended and that only pay the lump sum every so many years because they want their license back? They pay the $800 and then it's back to nothing for years. My children are more than 18 and I'm still owed $45,000, but I get $1.11 every week. Seriously. So I want to talk a little bit about this. This raises a good point. about non-custodial parents who, and I don't know if this is specifically about this situation, but this got me thinking. There are some non-custodial parents who owe multiple obligations. And some of those obligations have current support obligations. Some of those situations have just arrears only situations. The Delaware child support system is programmed, the computer system is programmed to apply payments in a certain hierarchy. The expectation by the Delaware, the way that the system is programmed based on the federal requirements, is that every case is to receive a child support payment. But the distribution hierarchy sometimes differentiates those cases that are current support obligations where there are minor children involved, and when there might be just an arrears only case. So one of the things about me that I want people to know is I'm going to try to explain things about child support that may not necessarily, be what everybody wants to hear. But in certain situations, and this may be a situation that, there's multiple child support obligations. Some are current support obligation only. Some are where there's current support involved with minor children. Some are arrears only cases. The non-custodial parent is working but not making enough to pay the total of multiple obligations. So the Delaware child support system is looking at ways to distribute those payments in a way that's making sure current support obligations are being met and arrears obligations are being met, and there's just not enough to go around. Non-custodial parents are always told when they're at family court that if we send a wage withholding to your employer and the employer is only taking out a percentage because there's not enough to send out the full amount of all of your obligations, the non-custodial parent is told that they have to meet the difference of that obligation. But in all actuality, we know it's hard. If they're only working at one place and there's not enough to make a full weekly or bi-weekly obligation to cover everything, some people aren't going to get what they're due because the system is looking to distribute current support obligations in some cases and paying those arrears only situations with what's kind of left over. Unfortunately, we could certainly take these cases in for contempt, but if the non-custodial parent is not making enough to cover that obligation, it's very difficult for the courts to find him in contempt or for the Division of Child Support Services to generate that contempt petition. Now, we certainly will suspend a license if he's not meeting that obligation, but like I said, if he's not making a payment within 30 to 60 days, the system is not automatically going to submit them for the license suspension program. So I know that was a lot to say about your particular situation. The thing to remember is the non-custodial parent having deducted each week or each pay period the amount that covers the total obligation of everything that they may owe. And in this particular situation, it doesn't sound like he is or she is. And you can certainly call child support. We'd be willing to talk a little bit more about potential next steps regarding the case. Let's see. I've always lived in Delaware. Worker told me that I need to keep contacting Maryland. I think that in this particular case, this might be a situation where you may want to send that PM, a personal message, to our community relations officer. He can send it to the worker, and we can elevate it again, and the supervisor can take a look at it to find out what the next steps are regarding your case. Because we certainly, the one thing that if you're living in Delaware, and this is the last thing I'll say on this, if you're living in Delaware and your case is in Delaware, we would rather you not call Maryland, quite honestly. We would like to make that initiation. If you're our client in Delaware, we at the Child Support Office should be calling the state of Maryland on your behalf. Really, we should be doing that. So what if you have a partnership LLC with someone who owes arrears? Can you suspend that business license? You know what? That is a very good question. And I think I don't want to give you misinformation. And that's something, maybe what I'll do is contact our Department of Justice on your behalf, and we will post a response on this video. I think this occurred one other time since I've been in the child support program, and I do not believe we suspended that business license because he was the non-custodial parent happened to be a partner on the business license. So I do not believe we did that, but I think we did not suspend that license. But I will contact our Department of Justice, ask that question, and will put a response out on Facebook. I'm pretty sure we did not do that though. So that's right now all the questions I have. So I wanted to talk a little bit about some things about the program. Again, like I said earlier, just to kind of reiterate, if you think you need to make an appointment to come into our child support office, I would say this: call the customer service unit and speak to a customer service child support specialist. They'll be able to triage your particular situation and determine whether you need to come in and talk to an actual worker. That's the best thing to do. And our customer service unit telephone numbers, again, 577-7171, area code 302. So, there are, I wanted to talk a little bit about how non-custodial parents can make a child support payment here in the state of Delaware. And when I say here in the state of Delaware, you can make this payment halfway across the country if you wanted to. So there's 4 ways in Delaware to make a child support payment. The first way is always by check or money order. And we ask that you include your name and at least the last 4 digits of your social security number on that check or money order. And on every court order that's issued here in the state of Delaware, there is an address to where you can mail that payment in Wilmington. It's a Wilmington address, so I always encourage people to look at your last court order. There's an address to where you can mail those payments, and I encourage you to mail a payment to the child support office. And as I mentioned earlier, if you think a wage withholding is coming to your employer, if you see it not coming out of your paycheck, you got to make that payment on your own for all of your obligations until you see it being deducted from your paycheck. The second way, I kind of already talked about it, an order of income withholding. The courts in about 99% of the cases say that an income withholding order has to be sent to your employer. The employer will make a deduction to the non-custodial parent's paycheck every time they get paid, and they will mail that payment to the child support office, and we will process that payment and send it to the custodial parent. The third way is through an online website called iPay Online. And an employer, a non-custodial parent, a non-custodial parent's cousin, anyone associated with that non-custodial parent can make an electronic payment, a one-time payment, or a reoccurring payment on a regular basis through that website. It's called iPay Online. And all this information can be found on our Delaware website. And a person can make a payment from their bank account, their a credit card, a debit card, and they can make that payment, and it's sent to us electronically, and we process that payment electronically. And then the fourth way is through Pay Kiosks. And Pay Kiosks are located at the Division of Motor Vehicles and a few probation and parole offices statewide. And those are the only location at those Pay Kiosks that can accept a cash payment. In all 3 of our offices, we do not accept cash. It's got to be check or money order. So we encourage people to make sure that they make those payments to us in not in a cash payment, but by check or money order. So those are 4 ways that we accept payments here in the state of Delaware. And like I said, we're always encouraging people to make those payments. So if you don't see it coming out of your paycheck, which is in about 99% of the time, you're going to see a wage deduction. There's always other options. And I'm always encouraging people. We have tons of great information on our Delaware Child Support Services website. You can find us through delaware.gov, state agencies, and there's always a lot of good information about it doesn't matter if you're a custodial parent or a non-custodial parent, there's always some good information for employers, information for veterans, people in the military. So I always encourage people, check out our website because there's always great information that we want to share with people on how to move their child support case to the next step. I got a new payment. I'm sorry, new question. Why I receive my payment every month? I used to receive it. I receive my payment every month. I used to receive my payment every month. I'm not sure what that means. Let me say this. The courts will create child support orders on a monthly basis. When we send a wage withholding to an employer, it actually tells the employer what that obligation, that monthly obligation, would be weekly, bi-weekly, semi-monthly, or monthly, to try and help that employer, make it as simple as possible based on how that non-custodial parent is paid. So, like I mentioned earlier, if the non-custodial parent is paid weekly, the employer is to make a deduction weekly and send it to child support weekly. And we are to process that payment within 2 business days from the time that we get it. And quite honestly, if we get a check today from an employer, or if we get an electronic funds transfer today from an employer, it's usually processed today. And then within the next day, it's on its way out to the custodial parent. So if that employer is not sending it to us weekly, based on how that employee is paid, then we need to know that at the child support office, and we can certainly reach out to that employer to make sure they understand how to process the wage attachment correctly. Now, let me say this too. There are situations, and this happens rarely, but it's worth mentioning. And it can get a little convoluted here, but so let's say, for instance, a non-custodial parent has a child support order that's for current support and an arrears payment. And the non-custodial parent satisfies the arrears payment, but the child support office or the non-custodial parent does not modify the court order to just make it a current support order. And we don't revoke that arrears payment. So the employer is still sending in money for current support and arrears. So we may, like I said, it happens rarely, but we may be, we can only send out what the monthly current support obligation is once that arrears is paid off. So sometimes what happens is the current support is having more money applied to it because it's still contained in that. It's still continuing to receive that arrears payment, so it's building up a balance. So once that first of the new month happens, anything that was on hold because the current support got paid off sooner would roll over and pay off the arrears, or would pay off the next month's current support. But that's rare, doesn't happen a lot. In this particular instance, they used to get the payments weekly, but now they're coming in monthly. It might be an idea for us to call the employer to find out, is there something that we can help them with to make sure they're sending in the payments correctly. So I hope that answered your question. Let's see here. Bear with me here. I'm just looking through some questions. She says, yeah, let's see. Yes. So yeah, and the question about the business license, we got your second. You're a managing partner in the business. So we'll, like I said, I'll get clarification, but I'm pretty sure we won't suspend a business license that has multiple partners. I don't think we've done that in the past. So I'm pretty confident about that answer, but I want to make sure by talking to the Department of Justice attorneys, and they'll get back to me right away. So let's see here. While I'm waiting for any more questions to come in, I want to check the time. We've got about 10 minutes left. I wanted to talk a little bit more about just some general child support information. So I talked a little bit about how non-custodial parents or employers can mail or process payments to the child support office. So the next thing I wanted to talk a little bit about is how we mail payments or process payments to custodial parents. So in Delaware, it is actually mandated by Delaware law that if you become a client or a customer of the child support program, you have to receive your payment electronically. And that's by either direct deposit or by signing up for our Relia card, which is a U.S. bank issued debit card. And so it's mandated by Delaware law that you sign up for these electronic payments. And it is so more efficient for us as a child support program to send your payments electronically. And it's actually a lot faster. It reduces the amount of the possibility of a payment being stolen or theft of a check, or a custodial parent not receiving a check that we've mailed to them and having to come in and fill out affidavits for lost checks and that kind of thing. But it's mandated by Delaware law that custodial parents sign up for debit card through U.S. Bank, or to have their payments directly deposited into a credit union account, a bank checking or savings account, or something along those lines. The third way, although we don't do much of it anymore, is by sending out checks. We do still send out payments by check, and it's really for those individuals who are not bankable, who have a hard time getting a bank account, or maybe don't have a social security number to get a bank account, or to sign up for the First State the U.S. Bank Relia card. So we do still send out checks, but we'd rather not do that, and we want people to sign up for the electronic payment. It's definitely the way to go. I just got another question, so let's check this out real quick. Can a spouse of a non-custodial parent have the payment deducted from their payroll to just get the arrears paid? No. The answer to that question is no. Current spouses of non-custodial parents, when it comes to child support, they cannot have their wages deducted. They should not have their tax refunds deducted. This is one thing I always tell people: we will not turn away a payment. So if the current spouse of a non-custodial parent wants to make a payment, if the mom of a non-custodial parent wants to make a payment, we will take that payment and we will process that payment. But we certainly will not take any administrative actions against the current spouse. That's just not how we do it, and it's not. I don't think it's legal, quite honestly. So one of the things that I wanted to mention before we start to wrap things up, and I certainly appreciate everyone who's tuned in to the Child Support Connection, and we're going to continue this again next month. I want to just remind people, child support is open. Our child support offices are open by appointment only. I want to thank everyone for who has come to the child support office for being wearing a face mask, being protective of themselves and being protective of our employees. Our employees are working really hard during the pandemic to stay safe, and we need your help to make sure we're doing that. It's definitely a difficult time for everyone, and we're really looking for people to work together to help us overcome this current situation we find ourselves. And we want to thank the public for all they're doing to be COVID responsible, doing the precautions, and staying safe. Everyone's health is important, and we all need to take those precautions. So what I'd like to do before I conclude this event today is I wanted to talk a little bit about paternity establishment in the state of Delaware. Making sure that paternity is established for children in Delaware is so very important. We talk about paternity establishment when we talk about children that are born out of wedlock here in the state of Delaware. There's three ways that paternity is established. The first is by marriage. So if the parties are married when the child is born, paternity for that child is automatically established under Delaware law. The second way is by the Voluntary Acknowledgement of Paternity program. So basically, it's a form that has to be notarized by both the mom and the dad that says, I'm acknowledging that I am the biological mother, I'm acknowledging that I am the biological father. They sign the document, fill out some other information, they notarize it, they send a copy to Vital Statistics, they keep a copy for themselves, and the Office of Vital Statistics will automatically update the child's birth certificate because they've received a voluntary acknowledgement of paternity document. It's important though. The key word is voluntary. So if you do not, we encourage people, don't sign that voluntary acknowledgement of paternity form unless you truly believe you are the biological parents, and submit that document to the Office of Vital Statistics. We can notarize that document here at the Child Support Office for free. Vital Statistics will notarize it for free. We encourage people to submit that form to the Office of Vital Statistics to update paternity for children here in the state of Delaware. And the last way, the third way we establish paternity in Delaware is through genetic testing. And we contract with a lab who will take a DNA sample from the inside of your cheek of the mom, the child, and the putative father, and they submit that those DNA samples to the lab, and they actually determine through a percentage, 99.999%, that hey, this is the biological father of this child, and the courts will adjudicate that, and they will update the birth certificate to basically, who the biological father is. But it's so important for the child's well-being to get paternity established. And child support here at the Division of Child Support Services, we want to be able to help you do that. If you have any questions about, is paternity established for my child? How do I get it done? You can call our child support office. If you're a grandmom and you want to know, how do I get make sure my grandchild's paternity is established, you can have your child call us, and we will help you verify that. To verify paternity is established for a child. I can't stress how important it really is for the child's well-being to know who the biological mom is and that biological father. And it's very important for that child to get paternity established. Well, I want to thank everyone. It's been almost an hour here, and I just want to thank everyone again for tuning in. Next month, the first Monday of the month at 11:30, the Child Support Connection. Encourage your friends to listen in. Encourage your family members to listen in. We're always taking questions in advance. If you have a question about child support, you can submit it. I'd be more than happy to answer it next month on the Child Support Connection. And encourage you to listen, come back and listen again next month. We hold these during the lunch hour, so people, if they're at work, they can take a break and tune in. But we encourage you, especially encourage your non-custodial parents, to send us a question or to tune in and ask a question online. We wanna work hard to connect with non-custodial parents to help them understand the child support process here in the state of Delaware. Thank you again for tuning in. I really appreciate it. Be safe. Make sure you're washing your hands, wearing your mask, and socially distancing. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next month on the Child Support Connection.